Go ahead.
Good morning, Corey.
Oh, you're muted. Hold on. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, looks like they're talking. I can't hear them, Adam.
1 second. There you go.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Bob Hamrick's on the line. All right, Bob. Looks like you got a little helper there, too. Nice. Nice. Mary Beth, how are
Can you
you?
hear us okay, Chuck?
What's that?
Chuck, can you hear us? Can you hear us okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool. Perfect. Perfect. Peter on this morning?
Don't see him yet, Chuck. He'll be on shortly.
Cool.
Tony, we just funded. We got confirmation just now.
Awesome. Perfect.
Isn't that a
So
person?
we should record.
Yeah, I think we should, close early. Hopefully we get a decent time confirmation. They've been coming late. San Diego County Recorders has just been dragging. But they are open now by appointment only.
Good morning, Chuck. Good morning, Corey.
Morning, Bob. You're looking great.
Why, thank you very much. How are you two doing?
Fantastic.
Doing
Excellent.
great.
Did you post this into West, too?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks for speaking this morning.
Excuse me?
Thanks for speaking this morning. We're excited.
Hey, I'm more excited than you are. I appreciate the opportunity. Peter Mendiola, oh my gosh. I didn't realize he was going to be here. I'm all nervous now.
What's up, Bob?
How are you, my friend?
I decided to do Zoom outside, and then next door there's a gardener that just happened to start blowing a blower. So,
No, it
man,
doesn't
this isn't
happen.
going to work out too well.
It's not just happens, it's intentional. It happens every single time.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How are you, Tracy?
I'm well. Thank you so much. How about you?
Great, thank you.
Oh, good.
So, Bob, tell us a little bit before we get started, man. How's the Vegas market?
Oh my gosh. Well, probably like all of yours, we are selling them as fast as we can get them. And property values are rising as well, faster than we've ever seen, faster than we would probably prefer. Offers are multiple offers at over list price. Again, I'm sure all of you are experiencing the same thing, but we haven't really experienced, you list a $350,000 home and, it's probably worth $345 and it sells for $370. Those are the kinds of things that are happening here quite consistently, which is good in some ways, but not so good in others. Oh my gosh, I see Lance Martin now. Whew! This is awesome. How are you, sir?
Bob, I'm doing fantastic.
Good.
I haven't talked in a year, and now we get to talk a couple times in a month.
All over the place. You're getting tired of me, aren't you?
Oh, no, we love you, man. I didn't know you were talking to Chuck, but I heard you were coming on this morning, and I was excited.
Well, thank you.
Ask
Looking
Lance
forward
what
to
my
it.
2021 forecast shirt is.
Yeah.
Chuck, did you want me to say more?
No,
I can keep going.
I mean, I'll just give you a little idea. Like when you tell me that a house is listed for $350 and it's worth $345 and it goes for $370, that's exciting to me because a house that's listed for $345 here that would be worth $350 worth $345 here goes for $500. Like our stuff is now, I mean, we have multiple transactions going $100,000 over list. We have a couple for 120. A new house comes on, there's usually 20 groups waiting out in front of the property. I mean, I don't know if it's down like that in San Diego, guys, but it is, I've never seen anything like this. And the property values are year over year right now up 27% in our major markets, which is insane.
Yes.
And that is insane. But you know what? It's still, with the interest rates and all that stuff, it's still a good time to buy. I mean, if your payment's right, your payment's right. So,
Absolutely. That is the whole point that I'll be touching on today is you have to be able to look at this in only one of them.
Nice. So let's see what else.
Good to see you, Bob.
Who just said that?
Peter.
Oh, now I'm seeing you. Hi, Peter. Yeah, you're looking good.
I don't know about that, but thank you. I had to move from outside to inside. There was a blower incident.
I heard those things tend to follow us around whenever it's Zoom time.
I love the blower incident.
Hope I do not underwhelm.
I'm sure you won't, Bob. I'm sure you won't. Hey,
So we'll set it up right. We'll set it up right. Bob's one of the guys that we all down here really, really, really look up to, and he's the best public speaker in the network. So
no pressure, Bob. No pressure.
Yeah, right.
No pressure, Bob.
Yeah. Right when I'm getting ready to make a 4-foot putt. Oh, he's never missed a 4-foot putt. And then he did.
No, but in all sincerity, you are someone that we all look up to and aspire to be like. If you guys ever get a chance to go out to Vegas and visit, Bob has probably the nicest office I've ever been in.
Agreed.
Hey, we've got a nicer one. We just opened our Green Valley campus, and it is fabulous. We have like the entire second floor of a 2-story building, but it has a 3rd floor balcony that has amazing views of the valley, and we party it up there. But we opened it in the middle of COVID, so we haven't been able to have any fun there. But it is a really awesome location. We're really proud of it.
Okay, if you're with West, don't go see him when you're in Vegas. It's gonna ruin us. We're gonna have to get new offices.
All right, so I'm thinking we could probably go ahead and get started. If you're cool with that, Bob, you ready to roll?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay,
yes.
so I've known Bob he's been a coldwell banker, broker, owner out in Las Vegas. I probably at least heard his name for at least 20 years. I'm not sure how long you've been in the brand, but the last 10 years pretty much exclusively, Bob has been the man when it comes to Vegas, and his agents are fantastic. He's got a Las Vegas Minute that's fantastic. He's quoted in all kinds of great, wonderful, publications, and people interview him all the time, and Peter looks up to him, I look up to him, Lance looks up to him. I mean, he's really built a fantastic business, but more importantly, he's surrounded by...
Corey does not look up to me, though.
No, he doesn't. He told me that.
Corey.
No, he told me to say that too.
I look way up to you, Bob. Not just up to you, but way up to you.
Thank you.
And
Bob, this is
the cool part about Bob is...
James.
Steve Games. There you go.
Oh, my gosh. Steve Games.
Hey, buddy.
How are you, sir? This is awesome.
You kicked my ass around town a number of times when we were Prudential Americana, so I know everything.
Well, that is awesome. It's awesome to see you, my friend that I've never met before, but certainly the name is clear. How awesome to have you with us.
Well, thank you, Mike. I joined Peter about 8 months ago, and it's the best decision I've ever made. And of course, Corey, who we've been partners in the past, and there's just so many great people in the company, and it's great to have you on the call. We're going to learn a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You bet.
Awesome. Well, Bob, hey, man, without further ado, I'm just going to turn it over, man. If you don't mind sharing some of the secrets of what you guys got going on, how to generate, whatever you want to talk about, man, we're here to listen because we know there's value. So, Bob, you're on, buddy. All you.
Awesome. Chuck, thank you very much. It's interesting. I'm observing you at your space. I love that setup. At my home office, when we went into COVID, did all that stuff. I've got a stand-up location there, and I don't have it here in my office because I haven't been here, but I am at my office. So I'm sitting down and would prefer to be standing up, but I like to see how you're doing it. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here with you all. Chuck and I have had multiple conversations about this wonderful group and this wonderful opportunity for me to share some information with you. He mentioned that, geez, if you've got any PowerPoint slides, try to minimize them as much as possible. And I didn't listen to a single word that he said when it came to that.
Speaking of that, you got to make him a co-host, Peter. Make him a co-host.
I do have I have a bunch of different slides that I'd like to share, but Tammy, if you have controls to take over, and the rest of the story is that I have got Tammy Pitts, who is my vice president of operations, and I don't leave home without her because I always have someone to blame. So she is in charge of pushing all the buttons and making sure that everything happens. And so my goal today is to remind each and every one of us how simple our real estate business should be and how we should strive to keep it that way all the time. And in this very, very complex world of real estate, it is very, very important, in my opinion, to stay focused on the basics and keep it simple. So when I mentioned the PowerPoint, as you can see, it fills your screen. But Tammy and I discovered that there is a wonderful function that is available if you are watching this from a desktop. And that is to follow what you're seeing here and get to the side-by-side mode. And if you do that, what you should be able to do is see me on one side and see the slides on the other side. So I can remain animated and you all can enjoy the slide presentation as well. Now, this is a total choice. So if you'd rather not see me, then just keep it the way that it is, and we will be just fine. So Chuck asked a little bit about our marketplace. I'll share a little bit about Coldwell Banker Premier Realty. We've been in Las Vegas. Coldwell Banker has been in Las Vegas since 1983. I actually started in the real estate business in 1980. And we really started cooking in 1998 because that's when Molly and I acquired the company from the previous owner. We have about 275 sales associates and teams, 2,643 closed transactions, $1.1 billion in sales, and an average sales price of $382,000. Now, I know I'm talking to California brokers, and I know you guys are doing a tremendous amount of business as well. So this may pale to to what you all are doing, but we're okay in Las Vegas. We're doing a pretty good job, and I've been doing it for quite some time, and have really enjoyed mostly my affiliation with Coldwell Banker. I grew up I started in the business with an independent real estate company that, as Steve mentioned, turned into a Better Homes and Gardens franchise, and then ultimately turned into a Prudential company. It was Prudential Americana, and is now Berkshire Hathaway. I left that company 15 years into the business and joined Coldwell Banker in 1995. So to share a little bit about what my goal is today, I want to use an analogy, and that is the great coach of the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi. Most of you may be aware that he was all about the basics, the X's and the O's. Basically, his philosophy was, I don't care if the defense knows what we're going to do. We're going to tell them what we're going to do, but we're going to cause it to still win because they cannot defend against us. So every season, at the beginning of his season, he would hold up a football in front of his team and he would say, team, this is a football. And obviously, he's talking to professionals that certainly know what that thing is. But his point and my point is that we constantly should be reminding ourselves of the basics of the business to ensure that we are not overlooking or overcomplicating the business. So today, my goal is to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, that this is real estate. The fundamentals, the basics, as well as some ideas that I believe will help you in the specifics of the challenges we're dealing with today in this market. So first off, I want to share kind of what I have as a philosophy of the business. And it probably is not much different from all of you because, like many of you, you may have grown up the Mike Ferry way. I certainly did. When I first got in the real estate business, I think it was 1983 that Mike Ferry came to our Association of Realtors and made a presentation. And frankly, I was very much attracted to that approach to the business, which is in your face real estate, which is do the things that need to be done and the results will be there. I am an embracer of that. And so when we see these basics, the first one being find people that wanna, you know that is a basic of this business. We have to recognize and accept the responsibility of business development. And oftentimes, if I observe failure in this business, most of the time it comes down to the fact that people aren't doing things to generate business. And if we're not doing things to generate business, the remaining basics don't matter. So first and foremost, you want to call it business development, you want to call it lead generation, it's prospecting. And we have to accept the fact that we are in the business development business first and foremost. After we find people that want to buy, we obviously know we've got to stay in touch with them until they're ready to do it. And there's a long line of people behind those people that want to buy right now or sell right now, but there's not as many agents following up and doing the things necessary to cause that business to happen in the future. We are in a long-term business, obviously, and we have to have a strong means of staying in touch with leads until they're ready to buy and sell. Again, a big area where people drop off is not following up on the basics and not following up with the people that they found that said they're interested in buying or selling. After this happens, we know also that we have to make powerful presentations to both buyers and sellers to cause them to choose us versus, in our marketplace, the other 13,000 real estate agents that are competing for my business. And so for that business. And so it is critically important to recognize that if we find people that want to buy and sell and we stay in touch with them, it's not automatic that they're going to select us. We obviously have to have a powerful presentation that causes them to say, Bob is the person I want to sell my home. He's going to cause me to put the most amount of money in my pocket. He's going to cause it to be the most enjoyable experience possible. And then finally, and especially in this market, it comes down to the skill of negotiation. Folks, you guys are killing it. I know I'm talking to the elite of each of your companies, but the reality is we have got to emphasize the importance of negotiations in our presentations. Because if we're going around saying, oh, I can sell your home, anybody can sell their home. The key is, can you sell my home and put the most amount of money in my pocket and cause it to be the best experience possible? And if that is what you do, then great. And negotiating is critical in this step. And as you all know, right now, it is all about negotiating effectively to cause the results to get there. So keeping with the basics, I have another philosophy on basics, and that is in probably anything that we do, there are three fundamental things that we have to do well. And the first is we have to choose the right things. My wife, love Molly, during our kid rearing years, she dropped them off at school. And the last thing she would say is make good choices. And ladies and gentlemen, each and every one of you are probably making good choices every single day as well. But those choices are, what do I do today? What am I going to do to cause my business to progress? Make good choices, do the right things. And typically the right things have to do with business development. Beyond the right things, we have to do those things right. Hey, I said this was basic, obviously. So we've got to do the right things right. And doing the right things right, obviously, and Tammy, you can click, doing the right things right means that we develop the skills as we are progressing. In other words, if you do the right things all the time, but you do them wrong all the time, you're still going to get business, but you're not going to get as much. But if you work on perfecting that skill set, then that is going to convert into more business. Do the right things right, and do the right things right often. We have to do it enough. That flywheel has to get in motion. And once it does, it's going to continue to cause us to generate more business, but we have to do it enough. There's a lot of people that fail in this business because they didn't earn the right to be discouraged. They didn't earn it. They just got discouraged. Well, have you knocked on enough doors? Have you made enough calls? Have you done enough things? Well, no. Well, then how can you possibly be discouraged if you haven't earned the right? And if you earn the right, guess what? You're not going to be discouraged because you're going to have the business. So at the beginning of this year, we recognized that this was going to be a very, very interesting year. Last year was an amazingly interesting year. But as we start to open up, and specifically to the Las Vegas market, folks, we hit it so hard. It was so painful in Las Vegas that once, in the hospitality business, the number one hospitality capital, now we've turned the corner. And there is good news after good news after good news after good news. You can't find, knock on wood, bad news about Las Vegas right now. And as a result of that, the real estate market is crazy. And so the first sales meeting of the year and subsequent sales meetings as reminders to all of our sales associates has been on this topic: how to build a listing-centric business in a low inventory market. And I'm not even going to ask, because I already know that every single one of you are toiling over the same challenge. So we are all in the same challenging situation, and we have to figure out how we work our way through it. So in this sales meeting, I came up with 7 suggestions of what to do to generate business, and that's what I shared. But I started with sharing the fact that in the real estate business, you've got to list to last. You all know that saying. You probably say it all the time. Do you believe it? There's no market like the one that we are in to remind us of the importance of listing to lasting. What we also hear a lot about is the fact that we are in a low or no inventory market. And one of the things that I wanted to share with my sales associates, and I would bet that it is similar in your market as well, is that the number of listings there's still a lot of properties coming on the market, ladies and gentlemen. There's in 2020, for example, there were 32,000 homes that came on the market, and you can see what was happening in previous years. Sales and closings. The listing side was less, but the sales and closings were actually pretty consistent. And here's the rest of the story. When you look at the listing side, we all know what agents do. A listing is on the market for 2 months. The seller is saying, why hasn't it sold? And you expire it or withdraw it and relist it. That's the same listing twice. And obviously, in a tougher market, properties are expiring. So that's the same listing twice. What we are experiencing right now is that homes are hitting the market and they are selling. Do we have a shortage of inventory? Well, yeah, but is it really as significant as the world is saying? I would suggest that it's not. I would just suggest that we have an insatiable buyer pool that cannot get enough. And so that's why we have a listing shortage. We're still listing a lot of property. It just is not as much as we would prefer to have. So in the information that I shared with our sales associates, I shared 7 different things. And the first one is being able to generate business around business. And again, I am talking basic stuff, and I'm sure many of you are doing a lot of the things that I'll be sharing with you. This may be more of a reminder than anything else, and a nudge, because we all need the nudge now and then to be reminded to do the things that we know we need to do to generate business. Business around business. Listen, we are heading out to our properties. If we sell a house, how many times do we go out to that property? If we take a listing, how many times do we go out to that property? Typically, it is multiple times. Where is the largest amount of time invested in that process? The drive, getting to that home. And so driving to it, driving back, the travel time is the number one challenge for all of us. But guess what? If you are there, do something about it. Getting business around business is something that we all should be doing a lot more of. We take a listing in a particular area. Before we even take that listing, we should be knocking on the doors and introducing ourselves and letting them know that we're going to be listing this property across the street. Who do they know that might be interested? Who else do you know that might be interested in selling? Folks, if we're going out there, we should leverage that time. Do we typically go out when the offer is presented? Do we go out when the inspection is had? Every time we do that, we should invest a few minutes into the neighborhood to meet some neighbors and to cause some additional business to happen. When we are talking about business around business as well, some of you may or may not pursue expireds and for sale by owners. I know there's a lot less of them in our markets now, but that is a way of doing it with a twist. When you list a home in a neighborhood, you can go in and do the entire full report and find out how many homes have expired in this neighborhood, how many homes have been withdrawn. And that's information that I believe is valuable to be able to generate more business around the business that you are already doing. This, in my opinion, is one of the greatest sources and the greatest ways to cause more listings to happen is business around business. The next piece that we shared with our agents is adopting the client on the other side. Folks, I'm not certain if this is something that you are doing, but I know that my wife, Molly, when she was generating $1 million a year in commission, Molly made it an absolute habit to adopt the client on the other side. How did she do it? Well, she did it because during the process, she had a high level of consciousness that that's what was going to happen. In other words, when she first started in the process of having a listing and a buyer that has purchased it, or she's there to show the property, she recognizes that that buyer on the other side could be a client for her at a later time. And she did everything possible to obtain the necessary information to cause her to be able to adopt the other side. I'm going to share information with you when we get to another section about the fact that most National Association of Realtors shows that most clients do not sell their home with the agent that they bought it from. 26%, I think, is the number. So 75% of the time, somebody sells somebody a home and they don't list it for them. Why not? Because they didn't follow up, or they didn't provide good service, or they're already out of the business. And so what we should be doing is adopting the agent on the other, the client on the other side. So how do we do it? Again, intentionally, you should be able to find out that person's email address. You should be able to get you have their information, obviously, if they're buying your listing. And then the other thing that I encourage is that through the process, always hold something back that you can deliver to the buyer at a later time. A garage door transmitter, an extra key to the storage room in back, and stop by and say, hey, I was having a conversation with the seller and they found another garage door transmitter. Just wanted to drop it by and share it with you. By the way, how's the home? How's this, et cetera? And get their email address so that you can begin or continue a relationship with them. You know that there are most of the time, they don't even like their own agent, and they start talking to you more than they're talking to their own agent and asking you questions. When that happens, take advantage of it. There's a tremendous amount of opportunities that you guys have had by accident, but it's like accidental. Oh, geez, guess what? These people called me. I didn't even sell them the house and they wanted to list with me. That was by accident. Imagine if you did it on purpose, how much more business you would have. So create a plan for adopting the client on the other side. The next point is finding the listing for your buyer. And this, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, is the exact opposite of what a typical real estate agent does. A typical real estate agent, when they have a buyer, the first thing that they do is search actives. They go into the MLS and they say, who am I going to share my commission with? And enter. And that is, who's the listing agent that is going to get, probably in this market, a larger percentage of the commission that I am going to get. And they go to find that. And that is a lazy approach, as you all know. And sometimes we don't have the time to do this. But guess what? We should be working very, very hard every single day to find the listing that our buyer is looking for. And so you've been in the situation, you've narrowed it down. You've narrowed it down to a neighborhood. You've probably even narrowed it down to a floor plan. And then oftentimes the agent waits for that neighborhood and floor plan to be listed. But we have had great success with our agents going into that neighborhood, creating a compelling letter that says, I really, 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 really do have a buyer for your home. This is their name. This is what they're looking for. This is their specifics. And if you would consider selling, this could be an optimum time for you to do so. Finding the listing for your buyers is critically important. So one of the things that I shared in the sales meeting was the fact that there was a couple of agents, and Mr. Games, they represented your company back then, Sean and Emily Gunning. They're still in the real estate business, and I've known them for many, many years. They obviously are a husband-wife team. Sean loved door knocking. Emily loved floor time. Emily would take floor calls, find out what a client was wanting, and dispatch Sean into the neighborhood where that property probably was. And Sean would start knocking on doors. We have a buyer interested in a home like yours. Would you consider selling? Well, yeah, but we'd have to buy a home. What are you interested in buying? And then he would go out and find that property. So they would be double ending all these properties because they were finding the listing for their buyer. The other thing is, obviously, we can leverage expireds and for sale by owners with a twist as it pertains to being able to search expired, search withdrawn listings when we have a buyer instead of searching the active. So would encourage you all to do those things as well on finding the buyer for your listing. The next category is one that I've had to change the word on, because neighborhood specialization sounds so much newer than farming, doesn't it? So neighborhood specialization, obviously, is farming. We don't need to talk about farming, right? You know everything about it. The real question is, are you doing it? And do you see value in it? And who do you follow that talks about neighborhood specialization? Because if you have heard of Tom Ferry, Tom will say that this is one of the things to ensure long-term success of a real estate agent is neighborhood specialization. And if you are not selecting a neighborhood and being that specialist in that neighborhood, then I would suggest that you're missing a wonderful opportunity. And obviously, there's just so much that we can do in our business. We're all very, very busy. But if we want to expand, then this is one of the things that I would encourage you to consider doing. We have a program within our organization called Own the Hood. And it is kind of a plug and play approach to help in neighborhood specialization. But there are all kinds of services that will help you from a farming standpoint if you're interested in pursuing it. And then it's a question of how do you take it to the next level? And we have examples of during New Year's, one of our agents went through the neighborhood and asked who would be interested in these lights. And I don't know, there's a beautiful name for them. I can't remember what it is. But neighbors said, yes, we would like them. And so he delivered them, and look how beautiful that looks. And it has an impact, and he received some great cards and is going to receive business as a result of doing that. So neighborhood specialization, in my opinion, is another area where we should be spending some time. The next category, number 5, is out-of-market owners. We know that they're absentee owners, whether they own a second home or whether they are rentals. Folks, I own a second home in Bryan Head, Utah. It's about 230 miles away from here, and love it. It's a sleepy mountain ski community, but I bring it up for this reason. I have owned it since 2010, and I have never received a phone call or a card or anything from any real estate agent there that says, hey, do you know what's going on up here in Bryan Head? And I would love to have that information. But guess what? Living in Las Vegas, I don't want information on Las Vegas because I kind of know it. I live in it. I experience it. There is a tremendous opportunity in out-of-town owners in leveraging them and being able to figure out, how do I weave my way into generating business from out-of-town owners? Again, nothing new, but do you have a plan that you've created that leverages out-of-town owners in a unique and effective way to cause that business to work in your favor? All right, the next piece is number 6, and that is our sphere of influence. If there is one thing that Bob Hamrick believes in, it is that we must create, develop, grow, and work our centers of influence. I am blown away how people get into the real estate business and have these wonderful people that they know and then go door knocking and then work expired listings and do all these other activities and not work the people that they know. I believe that there's something in there that is very questionable. Do these people that you know like you? Would they want to support you? And for most of us, the answer is yes. Then if that's the case, why would we ever work a different source when we have our centers of influence? To me, it is the number one reason why our industry is being disintermediated. Next slide, you probably know who these people are, right? You're going to see Spencer Raskoff, and Spencer was a former CEO of Zillow, and the new CEO of Zillow is Rich Barton. And the two of them have a couple of quotes that I think are very, very interesting. Rich Barton has quoted as saying, "It was always our strategy to bide our time. We're following the playbook of bringing a casserole to the dinner of the industry as a baby elephant, then growing bigger and bigger. Before you know it, you can't kick us out of the house." Has Zillow accomplished that? I would suggest that in some ways they have. And Spencer says, "We've built our entire business model on the belief that agents don't maintain thoughtful relationships with their past clients and sphere of influence." Is that true? I believe the answer is absolutely true. And if we want to overcome the challenges of disintermediation, the challenges of third-party aggregators, the answer is, in my opinion, humble, is work to build and service, our centers of influence. So I mentioned earlier that the National Association of Realtors, in their profile of homes for 2020, only 26% of home sellers use the agent they previously worked with to buy or sell their home. That is putrid. But yes, it is awesome for each and every one of us. What this says is that agents don't do what they need to do. And frankly, what Rich Barton and Spencer Raskoff are saying is true. What they're saying is that most agents don't do what they're supposed to do. Most agents don't care to maintain good relationships with their centers of influence. And by not doing that, we get them. Zillow is better at getting them than you're able to get them. My point? Don't allow them to be right. They're not right, but they are right with the majority of real estate agents. And that's what makes it great for each and every one of us on this call, because we're doing it right. And we are working our centers of influence, and we are building relationships with them, and we're staying in strong communication with them as well. So Tom Ferry really says it here when it comes to centers of influence. It is the number one source of longevity for this business, is having and working our sphere of influence. And at Coldwell Banker Premier Realty, we created a sphere of influence game plan, and I'll share it with Chuck, and the rest of you are welcome to have it. And it's nothing really that new, but it does challenge everyone to ask and answer certain questions. How many contacts do you have right now? Complete contacts. And what can I quickly build it to if I really put an effort into it over the next 4 weeks? And what growth would I like to have? Are we challenging ourselves every day to say, I need to add 20 people every month to my centers of influence? If it's not top of mind, it probably is only accidental. So what is your growth plan for your centers of influence? And then obviously the most important question is, what are we doing with it? What are we doing once we have a center of influence? And there's all kinds of things that we do, and we share in detail in this marketing piece what those things are. And it's phoning them, it's calling them, it's emailing them, it's texting them, it's mailing them, it's seeing them. So there's multiple things that we should be doing, and we should have some form of a cadence, some frequency in which we are doing those things. And if we do, then we have our sphere of influence buttoned up. And the rest of the story is that social media should certainly be factored into our game plan in working our centers of influence. And again, I'm happy to share this information with all of you if it will be of interest. And shares an example of how we might grow and have a certain number of contacts that we're having with our clients by simply plugging in to the things that we're doing automatically as a company. So Tom Ferry says it, we talk about it, and my challenge to each and every one of you, are you actually doing it? And if you're not, why not? What is it about working the people that we know that does not happen? I can tell you, I coach my top 25 agents, the best of our marketplace. The best agents, when I ask them, how are you doing with your sphere? They're constantly saying, well, I could be better. I could be better. And what does better look like? Well, probably a higher frequency, a better system of causing it to happen. So ladies and gentlemen, I challenge each and every one of you to come up with that system to cause you to not be able to say, I could do better. Do it and make it happen, and the results will certainly be there. Okay. The last point, which I didn't call number 7, but it is 6 point whatever, is expanding social media into each of the categories that I just mentioned. And I know that Chuck is phenomenal with social media, and I can't wait for him to do this for my team, have a presentation by Chuck on the topic. But we also have a great agent within our company that I met with in preparing for this with our agents to say, how would we use social media in each of those other 6 points that I mentioned? And there's something that can be done in social media for each of them. The first one was business around business. You can geo-market in Facebook and hit a particular zip code or a particular region and attempt to generate business around business from a social standpoint. Adopting the client on the other side. Hey, you may not have you may not know them on Facebook, but you certainly could search them out. You could friend them on Facebook. I'm not sure I would do it first. I might drop that transmitter off and then through a good conversation, friend them on Facebook. But now you're expanding your sphere of influence by adopting the other side. And find the listing for your buyer. Guess what? Once again, you can specifically spend a few dollars and go into a particular area to say, I have a specific buyer looking for something like this. Neighborhood specialization, by all means. You should have your own website, your own Facebook page that is specific to that neighborhood and allow others to market their wares within that site. And out-of-market owners, also, you can search people out on Facebook to try to see who they are and understand them before you have conversations with them. Or you could create that farm of out-of-state owners and be able to engage them on Facebook. And then finally, our sphere of influence. One of the things that when agents are telling me, well, how do I grow my sphere? One of the things I say is search out the friends of friends. When you go into Facebook and you see someone that you know and you've been friends with them for a long time, guess what? When you push and try to identify their friends, I would bet that in that 200 or 300 or whatever number of people, that there are 10 or so that you know, but you just haven't friended them yet. So friends of friends is a fabulous way of expanding your Facebook followers or Facebook friends and be able to have more people to communicate with. Whew! Can I take a breath now? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the sales meeting that we shared with our sales associates and have been continuing to have conversation with. And I would encourage you to continue to have conversation with yourself about those specific things to be able to challenge yourself to do more and challenge yourself to feel more in control in this type of a marketplace. You really are in control, and it's really a matter of recognizing the ways in which you can be in better control of your business. So the next segment that I want to share with you all is the importance of knowing your numbers. And I know you know this as well. Here's a reminder. The person that knows the most information typically wins. The person that knows how to present that information typically wins. I wrote a saying down that many of you have probably heard, and it is facts tell, stories sell. Facts tell, stories sell. It's the story that causes us to generate the opportunity in the business, not the facts. But guess what? If you have the facts and you mold it into a powerful story that is compelling and causes someone to get into that story, you got the business. And the information that is out there with regard to the marketplace needs to be known. You're the authority. You should know everything about everything when it comes to the numbers. And so what we have done as an organization is attempted, and I know you guys are doing it in a similar way, attempted to provide as much information as possible to our agents so they know what's going on. And the first one is what we've been tracking for over 20 some odd years. And that is the weekly multiple listing service inventory report. And what you see on the right is just a small sampling year to date since 2021. But down at the bottom and on the left, the graph that you're seeing is what took place in our marketplace. Again, maybe similar to all of yours, but we, during the Great Recession, stunk it up pretty good. And we had a bunch of listings hitting around 25, 27,000 homes on the market. And here we are today with 2,000 homes on the market. Again, I know that we're all experiencing this similarly, but the question is, do you have it graphically? Do you have it in a way that you can share with a client that goes back in history to say, here's what's happening in the market. And if you wanted to get a steal on a home, you needed to be buying then rather than now. And being able to demonstrate that can be very powerful. So the inventory report is one of the things that we share. But on a monthly basis, as Chuck mentioned, we have our monthly market update. And if any of you are interested in getting on my list to receive a monthly video that kind of encapsulates this information as well as some other stuff that's happening in Vegas, you're welcome to reach out to me and I'd be happy to add you to that. Here's the kind of stuff that you need to know. And many of you know it, but if you don't, then challenge yourself to be able to have your scripted macro market presentation. What is your macro market presentation? Because if you have a simple macro market presentation when you go to speak with a seller in a particular neighborhood, you're saying, hey, before we get into the details of your home, let me share with you a little bit about what's happening in our marketplace. And we have a discussion. April, that's you. You may want to mute yourself. Let's have a discussion about what's happening in the marketplace. And we could talk about how many listings are hitting the market. How many sales are taking place, what the median sales price is, what the median days on the market are. All of that stuff causes you to be seen as the authority, and you haven't even talked about their home yet. And in that period, you could be talking about some of the good things of the market, some of the challenges of the market. They are not attached to you at this time. I take it back, not attached to the information at this time. And so it's not personal. But when we start talking about their home, that's when it gets personal. But if you can reference the macro, then that is how I believe you'll be able to get to where you want to get from a pricing standpoint in a typical market, because I know that now we'll list it for any price and it'll sell for more than that. The next bit of information that I wanted to share with you all, this is market driven and right now kind of stuff. And I know that this applies in all of your markets, but our list price to sales price ratio, it has risen significantly from previous years, but not as much as you would think. And so it is important, I believe, important to share with buyers what's happening in the marketplace. So this has been a piece that we've been able to empower our agents with to be able to describe what's happening in the marketplace, both from a listing side and a sales side, showing the list price sales price ratio and the fact that we are still in the heat of this we're starting to see those homes starting to close now, because for us, it was early February when it hit the fan. It was early February when we started seeing how crazy the market was going. And so this is another graph that we created that says 1,265 homes sold for less than list price, but 1,502 sold for list price or higher. Now, our buyers need guidance, and they need to be guided as to why you have to make an offer that is above list price and why this has to happen, and be able to justify it with the facts. And so we've attempted to provide those facts. And then the next slide is the highest offer is sometimes the worst offer. And this, I believe, is a fabulous way of being able to describe the importance of a great real estate agent. Folks, you've probably been on the other side. You may have brought in an offer and you said, I can't believe they accepted that offer because there were other offers that were probably better, but somehow you caused your offer to get accepted. But then as a listing agent, you've seen offers that could have been the best offer, but now they're asking for, it has to appraise, and but we'll pay this higher price as long as it appraises. We'll pay this higher price, but we also need $5,000, $10,000 in closing costs. That best offer just became the worst offer. And many agents don't know that. And it is that type of conversation, in my opinion, that should be incorporated into your discussions with a seller to cause them to realize that the negotiation stage is a critical stage in our business. So if you're a seller, if you're a buyer, some information that maybe will be helpful for you all. And again, Chuck can cause you all to receive this information, and we can send it to you in a PDF if it would be of value. Obviously, it's the Las Vegas market, but some of these things I think will apply in your marketplace as well. So this could be a guide for you as to what you might want to create. Okay. The other thing is that buyers are questioning, should I be paying this much money for it? And I think to Chuck's point earlier, he said, hey, the payments are working out. So it is important to recognize the whys behind our marketplace being so powerful. Because if I were a buyer dropped in right now, I would think this is pretty freaking crazy. And I would need to be talked off the ledge multiple times. And so how do we do that? And so one of the things that we shared was some information as to why it is a good time to be buying real estate in Las Vegas, and some information here about low interest rates, et cetera. But the other bit of information has to do with the peak of our previous peak, because we just exceeded our previous peak. And that was in 2007. We just recently got there. And so there's this whole period of time where, in essence, we haven't had appreciation over that peak. And if you look at cost of living increases, and if you look at inflation, then we are way behind what the peak should be. So this is a way of describing still opportunity within the marketplace. And what we did was looked at the markets, and most of them are yours, the markets where people are moving into Las Vegas. Thank you all very, very much. But it's your marketplaces where people are coming to Las Vegas. And in those marketplaces, you've experienced greater appreciation. And so we've attempted to show to our buyers that other buyers, when you're coming from California, they're thinking it is a bargain to buy in Las Vegas. So that is one of the things that we've shared. And then finally, or not finally, but next to finally, is the payment difference. Look at this. In 2007, the median price was $305. Now it's $355. But look at the interest rate and payment difference. And I know you all know this, but is it graphically shared? And in 2007, if you bought at a median sales price, your payment would have been $1,640. But today it's $1,362. And that makes a significant difference in buying power. And then we tried to share this in a different way, talking about inflation and what has happened to the average price of a Mercedes S-Class car since then. Hey, it was $78,000 then, it's $140,000 now. What about a cup of coffee. And what about consumer products? What have they done? So in other words, there's still room, and property values have not gone up nearly as much as some of the inflation. And then the next page is simply a wrap up of that information. Again, all available for all of you. So speaking of wrap, this is me going into that wrap, and happy to answer any questions after this short piece is completed. But a couple weeks ago, CBS Morning News had a bit that some of you may have seen, but I think it really synopsizes the market. And it's great to be able to have stuff like this so that others, our buyers and clients, can understand what's happening rather than us having buyers and clients can understand what's happening rather than us having to say it. So I wanted to share this quick piece with all of you.
In this morning's Eye on Money, what house hunters should expect this home buying season. Median home prices are up, especially for existing homes, which have soared nearly 16% since February 2020. But inventory is way down, dropping almost 30% from a year ago. And mortgage rates, while near historic lows, have inched up to just over 3% for a 30-year fixed loan. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger joins us now. Jill, good morning. So if new and existing home sales were down last month, why are prices still so high?
Well, they were down last month, and I know that was a little bit of a shock, but year over year, meaning if we wind the clock back to February of 2020, activity's up by 8 or 9%, depending whether it's an existing or a new home. And the real critical issue that has plagued the housing market is a lack of supply. As you said, down nearly 30% for existing homes. Some economists believe that's even understating the problem. So when you have a ton of people coming into the market, a limited supply, prices are indeed higher. And, all that limited supply, Anthony, also exacerbated by the fact that some boomers didn't want to list their homes in the middle of a pandemic. And when you look to new homes, unfortunately, the price in new homes is also rising, not only because of a lack of supply, but the actual cost of the materials, whether it's crude oil that's used in paint, it could be copper used in the lines. So all put together, prices are indeed higher, and a lot higher for many would-be buyers.
Jill, a lot of people relocated because of the pandemic. What's the long-term impact going to be on the housing market of that, do you think?
Well, I think that it really depends. A lot of people were at home, whether they were working at home because their companies put them home or because they were home with their kids. They looked around, they wanted space. Now, here we are at hopefully the end of the pandemic with kids going back to school. Now the question really becomes, what will happen? And I think that the move that we've seen is from the big cities to sprawling suburbs. Now we're looking at smaller cities. It could be Austin, Charlotte, Nashville. And some of these even smaller cities are providing cash incentives to get you to move. There are websites that will hook up buyers with these incentives. And fascinating, places like Baltimore, right outside D.C., you can get $5,000 towards the purchase of a new home there.
So, again, we will forward this to you. If you would like this snippet, you can leverage it in any way that you would like, maybe post it on social media. But it does definitely go a long way, I think, to portray what we're all experiencing it and being able to have the authorities, the professionals, talk about it. Okay, last piece that I want to share before I wrap this up. I was blown away by this hour-long interview of two phenomenal ladies in the real estate industry, Diana Aulick, who is CNBC's real estate correspondent, but much more so Ivy Zellman. For those of you that know Ivy Zellman, she is absolutely, period, paragraph, the authority when it comes to real estate, when it comes to building, when it comes to the stock market in relation to real estate and builders, et cetera. And she really has her thumb on the pulse. So this hour-long interview, I'm going to play and you're going to enjoy it, and we'll see you at 10 o'clock. No, I'm kidding. There's 1 minute. There's 1 minute of this that is absolutely phenomenal for those of us that believe in what we do, and for those of us that believe in single family residential real estate, the interviewer asked a question and Ivy answered it, having to do with, if you had a whole bunch of money, where would you invest it? So listen to this.
So, Ivy, a similar question that I had for Peter Linneman when he was on the webcast in early January. If you had $100 million to invest today in real estate, but you have to pick an asset class, where are you putting it right now?
Single family. And I would be putting it in to do more of either fix and flip or building new construction on existing lots that are enable you to maybe take advantage of what might be large lots and densify these more suburban infill areas. I think there's a lot of old stock.
Is it just my phone, or I'm not able to hear the videos?
Much older, east of the Mississippi, and we have stock that's in need of great repair. But if we also have very large lots, large homes, you knock them down, you can build several units on those lots. That's what I would be focused on, because I think that's where the greatest need is and the greatest opportunity.
And that was 1 minute long and pretty powerful. So, Jessica, I think that you weren't able to hear it. I apologize for that. But we will cause Chuck to have this, and we can cause all of you to have all the information that was shared in our discussion today. So the wrap up is pretty simple. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with all of you. I hope that there was some value that was provided. Again, I know how fundamental some of these points are, but guess what? I'm talking about fundamentals with my top producers on a very regular basis, because we need to hear the fundamentals on a more regular basis than all the craziness of ways in which we can make money that, frankly, in my opinion, are quite overwhelming for a lot of us. So keep it simple and do the right things, do them right, and do them often, and the results will be there for all of you. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll open it up for any questions or anything else.
Bob, we have about 3 minutes left, and I just got to tell you, I mean, I thought it was great. I know Peter's been messaging me, Rick Hagan. I mean, you got everybody on here just really appreciates being back to the basics. But I wanted to just hit real quick before we check out. I wanted to hit for the people that joined in late or that maybe just joined us on Facebook or whatever. I wanted to point out the things that I thought were your big, powerful points. Number one, business around business. I do think it is a great idea. I loved when you said, where do we go the most? We go to the property, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times just to try to make some relationships with people in that neighborhood at that time, neighbors, people across the street. I think that's a fantastic idea. Second, you had mentioned adopting the client on the other side. I think that's a great idea myself. I mean, and it just does. I love the idea of always holding something back. So going later or a couple days later and bringing that garage door opener or the storage room key or whatever, just so that you have the opportunity to shake their hand and meet them. Because like you said, most people never actually use that agent again that they used the first time. So that is a fantastic piece. Next, when it came to sphere of influence, and you said you don't understand why people continue to cold call and door knock and buy leads from Zillow, when all they really need to do is just make sure that they take care of the people that are closest to them. That's the big question, and that's one of the things that drives me crazy about teams. So really, it is just something that I think baffles us all as to why people do that when they could just take care of the people that they know, or they'll go in there and they'll make sales, hit it and quit it, and then never go back to those people. So don't allow Zillow to be right. I like that. Next one, this is a great one. If you aren't planning to add 20 people to your sphere, that the people that are ending up in your sphere are getting there by accident. And they're rare and they're few and far between. Like, to me, that was fantastic, because I don't think most people are putting that into their business plan to say, I need 5 this week, I need 10 this month. I think if we did do that and is more of a planned project, then we're not going to just be doing everything by accident. That was a great one, Bob. Love that. Intentional
Love
is
the key.
Love it. The other one, again, the other side of the transaction on social media, great. And this is something I wanted to add too. Most people, I think, in this business who are not intentional, like you just said, they get their deals and clients by accident.